These photos aren't for clients, so focus on the moment rather than just capturing technically perfect photos. I'm willing to bet that you didn't even know the term ISO or grain before you got into photography, so chances are your family won't either. They're not going to care. What they are going to care and notice when they look at the photo is whether or not you captured the moment. Hey, Raymond here from the Beginner Photography Podcast, and it is Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I wanted to make a quick episode today. It is not a rewind interview like normal, but something new and fresh. And Thanksgiving for me has always been a time, growing up, Thanksgiving was my favorite holiday. I didn't live very close to a lot of my extended family, so Thanksgiving was really a time to spend time with them, and I loved it. It was always a good time. But one of the things that I realized early on is that being present on Thanksgiving with your family is a whole lot better than trying to capture all these photos and feeling like you're not getting the photos that you want. And maybe, I don't know, Uncle Bob is saying like, what are you going to do with these photos? And it just feels weird. So I always focus on being as present as I can with family. But at the same time, I do like to take photos of my life. So, what sorts of photos should we take? That's what I'm going to share with you today in something special. It's a challenge of sorts. I want to challenge you to tell the story of your Thanksgiving. So, as I said, for me, the main goal of Thanksgiving is to spend time with family, those we love, have some good food, share some laughs, things like that. And if for you, you don't love these people, well, then you can enjoy this little photo challenge as a way to distract you from their nonsense. So when we think about a story it has three parts. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. But then it also communicates several things. It communicates who, what, when, where, why, and how. Maybe you remember that from, I don't know, third grade, maybe? But the point of that is to give you some sort of framework, because how can you be present while also focusing on taking a bunch of photos? Well, when you go into it knowing what it is that you need, now you can spend more time or spend your time shooting just those things rather than trying to shoot everything, every aspect of the day in every possible focal length and angle and possibility, and then try to edit a story in post, right? You can have your camera out for a few moments, take the photo that you need, knowing, oh, this part is the middle of the story, this part is the beginning, this might be a detail, this is communicating the who, and then you can just put your camera right back away and enjoy your time again. So knowing the story that you want to shoot and then shooting for it really can enhance your Thanksgiving time with everybody. So for a moment, knowing that each story needs a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it's going to communicate the who, what, when, where, why, and how. I want you to, as long as you're not driving, of course, close your eyes for a moment and think to yourself, what are those photos that would tell the story of the day to come? You probably have some sort of general idea of what's going to happen today, whether you are hosting Thanksgiving and you got a lot of prep work yourself, or you are visiting family for Thanksgiving. You kind of have an idea of how the flow of the day is going to go. So just kind of close your eyes and then think, out of all of these potential moments that are going to happen, what would tell the story of the day, right? What are those photos? What photo would communicate the beginning of the day? What photos would communicate kind of the middle, the meat of the day? And then what photos would communicate the end of the day? And then who do I need, or what do I need to tell the who, what, when, where, why, and how? What are those photos? So I'll just give you some examples. The beginning of the day, I find in film school, we were told that this is the establishing shot. When you see this in movies, it's seeing the outside of a prison or the outside of a courthouse or something like that. We have an idea of, okay, here's where we're at. So we kind of have an idea of what's about to happen. So maybe this beginning shot, this establishing shot that's the where. That's the where of the who, what, when, where, why. Where is this taking place? Is it your house? Is it another family member's house? Are you doing something different for Thanksgiving? What is it? Where are you? That's the establishing shot. Typically, an establishing shot or those photos in the beginning are a bit wider of a focal length so that we can kind of start to feel this thing out on our own, right? We don't just want to dive in to the photos and be like, wow, we're like headed off to the races. You want to ease into these things when it comes to story. So typically a wider focal length is usually what I choose. So then we get into the middle, right? We told the beginning, here's where we're at. This is what's about to happen, right? So the middle. These shots, I typically choose something more of a medium or more of a close-up because now it's time to start immersing the viewer in what is happening. So what sorts of photos should we be taking? Well, we need to know what is going on here, right? So these are typically detail shots. And since Thanksgiving has a lot to do with food, I find that detail shots are often photos of sides, rolls, deviled eggs, the turkey, the festive drinks, and then, of course, a shot of the full spread on the table. Those are the details. It's those things that we work hard on and that we like look forward to. So, of course, you got to get those photos and you want to make sure that you are either medium or close up for those and really get the feel for what is happening. There's nothing interesting about a wide shot of a bowl with like 12 rolls in it. There's nothing interesting about that. But when maybe you're shooting at 100 millimeters and you can get all the texture of the bread, maybe it's homemade bread, then that is more interesting to look at. Next, we got to capture the who, right? If this is your house, who came to visit? If you're visiting somebody's house, who's hosting? Who else is there? What are those photos like? Is it Uncle Mark sleeping in front of the TV? Is it, it can be a dog licking their lips, getting excited, being in the kitchen when they shouldn't be. Maybe it's your cousin who has more tattoos than the wall of a tattoo parlor. I'm talking to you, Travis. I'm talking to you. So don't be scared to capture these photos of who's there because that is what is going to help tell the story. When you look back at old photos of your parents' generation, all of the photos are of other people because that is what's important to us. Taking photos of details is actually like a relatively new thing because we have more flexibility in taking photos. It's not as expensive or we have better ways of managing photos. So the who is really, really important. So don't be scared to even grab everybody and wrangle them up for one group photo. That's always great. Everybody always loves that photo. And then the when. This is Thanksgiving. So these photos should say Thanksgiving. They shouldn't just say, hey, we got some people together to eat some pumpkin pie. It should say Thanksgiving. What are those elements that say Thanksgiving? Don't forget to capture those. Next is the how. As I said, food is a big part of the holiday. So try to get a photo of how the food comes together, whether it's somebody prepping spinach dip or stirring the mashed potatoes or putting the finishing touches on the mac and cheese or pulling the turkey out of the oven, whatever it is. Those are the how moments of how this thing comes together. That's really like the meat of what it is that you need to capture. The what, the who, the when, and the how is the meat. And then last, we got to end this thing. That's typically, for me, it's the payoff. And when it comes to the end, these shots should be a bit wider as well. Because now it's time to say like, bon voyage, like this was great. We had a good time. We're closing things up. And maybe this is a shot of what is left on the table after everybody already ate, or a pile of dishes, or maybe it's everybody napping on the couch, kids napping, cousins napping, whatever it is, the dog, and maybe the dog got a little treat themselves. Maybe they got some turkey or something like that. Capture those photos that kind of wraps everything up like, man, this was a successful day. So think about that right now. Like, what do you think the end of this day looks like? And it doesn't necessarily have to be like the last shot of the day. It doesn't have to be you walking out the door or everybody else walking out the door and waving to the camera. This can be earlier. Like, what would a good ending to this story be? And what's probably going to happen? And that way you can focus on getting that shot so that once you get that shot, then you know that you captured the story. You can put away your camera and once again, be present with your family. So that is how you tell the story of Thanksgiving. When shooting, if you're inside, which is going to be for a lot of people as it's colder this time of year, if you're looking for good light, try to position yourself in front of or near a window and let the light coming in from the window hit your subject so that you can photograph them in its nice, soft, beautiful light. Also, don't worry about flash. Flash is very distracting and people get like, wait a second, what's going on here? So don't be scared to shoot at ISO, 10 million if you have to. Like, who cares? These photos aren't for clients. So focus on the moment rather than just capturing technically perfect photos. I'm willing to bet that you didn't even know the term ISO or grain before you got into photography. So chances are your family won't either. They're not going to care. What they are going to care and notice when they look at the photo is whether or not you captured the moment. So when you're done capturing all these photos, try to cull down your images and see if you can tell the story of Thanksgiving in just 5 photos. You can do it. And knowing that you have to pick just 5 photos is going to make it a lot easier to focus on what it is that you want to shoot. Because now while you're looking through the viewfinder, you could think to yourself, is there a chance that this might be one of the 5 photos? No? All right, forget it. I'm going to put down the camera and get back to enjoying time here with our family and having a good conversation. So that is it. When you're done, I'd love to see your photos in the Beginner Photography Podcast community. This could be a fun little challenge that we all have. And if you go back and listen to this episode, technically it works with any sort of story you want to tell. All of these things would still apply to shooting a wedding or a birthday party, any other event. There's always a beginning, middle, and an end, and you got to know the who, what, when, where, why, and how. So that is it. I want you to enjoy yourself this Thanksgiving. I want you to enjoy your time with family and just be safe this Thanksgiving. All right? That's it for today. Remember, until next time, the more that you shoot today, the better of a photographer you will be tomorrow. Talk soon.
Thank you for listening to the Beginner Photography Podcast. Keep shooting, and we'll see you next week.